Welcome back, everyone. Joined by Jim Wilson, the assistant sports editor of the Telegram and Gazette and Home Team Magazine. And Willie, this is our final show.
Where's the time go?
Year. It goes by like that. We've had some good moments, some memorable moments.
Wow, I'll say.
Last week, though, we didn't get to talk a lot about Division 6,
right.
so we wanted to touch on that. You can go first about just how wide open this division is and how even it is, too,
right.
when you look at the top 4 teams.
Yeah, definitely. It's wide open is the right word for Division 6. Because you look at it, even the games that are rematches, they were close games. There wasn't one, like Valley Tech and Bay Path was a really close game. Bay Path got the win. If that happens in the playoffs, it might be a different result. I'm sure Valley Tech is thinking the same thing. I mean, that is just, you have Littleton in there. I think Aspet can win a game in the playoffs with Paul Harper, and they're dangerous, too. And Maynard's Luke are looking on the outside. I don't know if they're out yet. I stink at math. So when it comes down to, I mean, that division is anybody's game. That's what I like about these playoffs, because there's not one team you look at and say, in any division, say, well, they're obviously, maybe Auburn. But.
Yes. Well, that's a good point, though, but you're right. And you don't have, in this format, you don't have a team that comes in with a 1-9 record or something into the playoffs, like you said, and you say, okay, well, the top seed's 10-0, 11-0, the number 4 seeds 1-10, they're going to get crushed. And in almost every division, you have great matchups. You have rematches in a lot of cases that were, as you mentioned, good games. Division 5 is kind of another division like that's going to feature some wide open stuff, and teams like Leicester and West Boylston, Leicester, Tingsboro, teams that don't play each other during the regular season. So that's interesting too, because you have these teams that have great records. Now they're going to meet for the first time in the playoffs.
Right, and I like that because a team like Leicester, who's sort of been a little quiet, their losses are good losses. I mean, that Grafton game early in the season was a good loss for them because they stayed with the game. You like to think if they play that game like week 8, that's probably a win for Leicester because they're just a much better football team than when they met early. They lost to Auburn. That's going to happen to a lot of teams. But they have great skilled players. It's almost like last year they had that great line and the skilled players were growing. It's the skilled players are right where they should be right now. They're going to be dangerous in the playoffs.
Mike Ross is going to take umbrage with you with that
Rossi,
comment. Rossi's going to come right.
Give me a call.
He's going to come right back at you. Talking about the 3 teams that are undefeated: NASHOBA, Auburn, and Tingsboro. And let's just talk about how difficult it is to go undefeated. I mean, we still have Thanksgiving to play, but they're 10-0 going into Thanksgiving. What an accomplishment that is, because you and I were talking about this off camera. There's no room for error. You can't have a bad week. You can't have a week. I mean, everyone has injuries. These guys have played through injuries. They've played through maybe a couple hiccups for a quarter or two, but they've come through and they've won and they're undefeated, and that's an impressive accomplishment.
And they've all had big games. You look at the 2 obvious ones are Auburn and NASHOBA, because you look at those guys. Auburn playing Shrewsbury, they playing St. PETER-MARIAN. Holliston's always a tough game for them. Northbridge and Grafton. All those games are really tough. If they sleep for a second, look what happened last year against Shepherd Hill. Shepherd Hill was a good team last year. Auburn may or may not have taken them, coasted a little bit, cost them because Shepherd Hill came and smacked them in the mouth. That this year they came back and look at NASHOBA early this season against games like Marlboro. They had a half where they really didn't go things didn't go their way. They regroup in halftime, they right the ship, and they come out with a win. That's the mark of a good football team. Not that they just went 10-0, but they did it with adversity too.
Yeah, that's the thing that I love is the consistency. I mean, you week in and week out, you have to get up for each opponent. You can't take the opponent lightly, and you're getting the best from every team. Every week that some team plays Auburn or plays NASHOBA, that's their Super Bowl. They're gearing up all week long. This is our Super Bowl. It's our chance to upset the undefeated team. And these teams in Tingsboro, too, have taken other teams' best shots, and they've responded.
Right, and Tingsboro has a great running game. I think they're going to show that next couple weeks because they sort of, I think we talked about a couple weeks ago, they're sort of out there in no man's land. People don't know what they have, and they're 10-0. They're going to be good. They've won some great games this year. Thanksgiving.
We're not going to be on before Thanksgiving, but let's just talk a little bit about what Thanksgiving football, because it's unique to Massachusetts to have Thanksgiving football. When you go around the country, other states don't have Thanksgiving Day football. They don't have the tradition of Turkey Day football. What it means to you as a player, what you remember about Thanksgiving.
It's one of those games, I mean, it's everything's been said about Thanksgiving because it's the game you look forward to. I think some people look forward to more than the playoffs because it's just such a meaningful game for you. It's one you come back, the alumni's all there. You're watching former players. You're watching the parents of the former players. Everybody's coming back for that one game. It means a lot. You go 0-10 into Thanksgiving, but you win that one game, it's what you remember. You don't remember the 10 losses. You remember that one game walking off the field. And vice versa, if you lose that game, it just eats at you. I lost my senior year, and I wish I cared more at the time because it kills me, especially watching it now. It's my punishment. Watching football, knowing what I gave up in high school.
Yeah, it's tough. My same thing. I lost my junior year to Maynard. I lost my senior year to Maynard, and it hurt. I mean, it hurt the whole day long.
Right.
You didn't want to eat. You didn't want to see anyone after the game. And then conversely, as a sophomore, I was doing nothing but holding the water. But we won, and it was a great feeling. It was a great bus ride back to Acton, and I love the tradition of it. I love getting into the locker room early in the morning. It feels like
Right.
double sessions again
Yep.
because you're up early. You're in the locker room. It's like 8 in the morning or whatever it is, 7 and 6 in the morning. And you go through the walkthrough on your field, then you go back in the locker room and you get on the bus and go, or you wait for the other team to come. And it's special because you have guys that when you were a freshman and sophomore, you were playing with and you looked up to these upperclassmen. Now they're in the stands when you're a junior and senior and they're watching you and they're supporting you. That's a pretty special feeling.
You're savoring these we're on tomorrow night, and look, these practices are going to his last practice. Last time you do
Yes.
sprints, last time you do this, last pasta dinner,
Yeah.
stuff like that. That's what you're really going to savor, not the stuff off the field. The relationships you forge in the locker room, I think, are just fantastic. They stay with you forever. I think it's a great thing for these kids to really just enjoy this week. It seems trivial because you have, sometimes you're playing the games, you have practices, you're cold now. But it's the last time you can do this stuff for a lot of people, and I think that's what you're really going to remember 10 years down the road.
I agree. We have about a minute and a half left. You and I don't get to talk a lot about the coaches. We talk to coaches a lot during the season, but we don't get to talk a lot about the coaches. And every coach, no matter what the record is of this team, every single coach, head coach down through the assistants, has an impact on every single player on that roster. You and I both had some great coaches through our time playing, and we're fortunate enough to have. I had Coach Ed Leary and Ray Gallant, great guys that had such a big impact on my life. And I think that's one of the best things about football in the group of the coaches in Central Mass, regardless of record.
That's what you said. They make an impact. They're a surrogate family for you during the year. A lot of coaches do a lot for the players on and off the field. They're studying and getting into colleges and things like that. I think that's great. My coach was Frank Kronoff, and he was as old school as they come over at Algonquin. So I think that he teaches you a lot about life in the game and sneaking cigarettes off in the forest. So I think that's just a lot. That's what you get a lot of credit because these coaches get hammered by parents and if they lose and why didn't he run this, a lot of second guessing. These guys deserve a lot of credit just for being out there on the sidelines and teaching these kids more about being a man and being just being a better football player.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that coaches spend 4 hours a day with these guys, and a lot of times the parents spend maybe a half an hour and think it's quality time. All right, that's all the time we have. Thanks for watching all season long. Back with more of the Frenzy Extra right after this.